Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man ihtada bihada wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma 'allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna 'ilma. Allahumma iftah ilayna hikmatak wa anshur alayna rahmatak ya dhal jalali wal ikram. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الكرام ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. بسم الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to our 9th session, and our topic of discussion today, inshallah, is going to be intentions. Intentions in the crucible of abstinence. What do intentions entail? What do they mean? Where do they come from? Why are they important? Particularly, why are they important in this month of Ramadan? It's common practice for those who are fasting to make the intention to fast, right? You make the intention either the night before or the morning of before you end your suhoor. نويت صوم غد من شهر Ramadan. You're making the niyyah that you want to fast and you want to receive the blessing of the fast in the month of Ramadan. Why do you do that? Why is there a verbal intention? Some make an intention before praying their salah, and some it's just an intention in the heart. Right? But there is still an intention involved. My point is here that whether or not there is a verbal utterance, a physical utterance that you have to give, a testimony of your intention, or it's just, something that you intend in your heart that this is what I want to do, or this is what I'm going to do. What's the point here? I mean, there is clearly a difference in opinion as to whether or not intention should be made verbally or and audibly, or simply just kept as something of in the heart. What's the point between the two? You'll find here now that intentions in the hadith that we will look at, that the intention is largely an attribute of the heart, where the actions that the intentions will then manifest, because you make the intention to do something. And so the doing is the action, right? And so this will then manifest into the world as an action. So the action is really a mulkiya thing. It's a tangible thing. It's a physical thing, and it's an outward thing. Now, and so the intention is really an inward thing. Where does this intention take place? Does it take place in the heart, or does it simply take place in, say, the mind, where one just makes a decision to do something, right? You just decide, you put together all the factors or things that will help you make a decision, and then you just decide to do whatever you're going to do. Where does the decision making of the being actually take place? This is what we want to look at. Now, just to help you understand this, when we go into the hadith, we are dealing with three primary components here, as we have mentioned throughout. You have your shahwa, your ghadab, and your aql. So your shahwa and your ghadab, these we say are the lower elements of your soul that are linked to your body. So these are the outward aspects of your soul. And so you have your body, which is the outward of your being, and your being, which is this point of light, is the inward. Then you've got this being is inside a heart, which is inside the soul. Now the soul is your ethereal body. So you've got matter and you've got ether, right? And this is in classical sciences. So the matter is the physical body, and the ether is the ethereal body. So it's the ethereal body that gives power to the material body. One of the questions I always get asked is, because we hold the principle that sleep is not really for the body in so much as it is for the soul, and that it's really a matter of the soul recharging itself, going back to the world from whence it came, because it is not of this realm. The heart also is not of this realm. And so it cannot stay here for too long. It begins to suffocate because it needs to breathe, but its breathing is not the oxygen of the material oxygen, which the body requires. So if you remove the body from its world and place it in an environment of which it is not, for instance, if you remove the body from this space and put it in water, like you put it in the ocean, then this body will suffocate, because for it to breathe, it needs air. Unlike fish, for instance, if you remove a fish from its environment and put it in this environment, it will suffocate, because the way it breathes is not the same way as the body breathes, right? Likewise for the soul, if you remove the soul from its environment for too long, so the body, you can go underwater and, survive for a certain duration, right? A minute, 2 minutes, I think, is the most that any normal person can hold their breath and breathe, or hold their breath. Or if they have an apparatus of sorts, then they can breathe for longer. So likewise, the soul, if it comes into this realm, there's a very short duration that you can actually survive in this realm, unless it has the apparatus necessary. So for the body to survive in the ocean, it needs the skin, right? The suit, and then the breathing apparatus and the oxygen tanks and everything. So it can stay for a longer duration, and then it has to resurface to replenish that oxygen if it wants to go back in, right? So the same case applies for the soul. For the soul to come into this realm, it needs an apparatus. It needs a device which will help it survive in this world. You understand? Without which it will not be able to. Now, for a certain duration, then it has to depart. It has to go back, replenish, and then come back. This is the cycle of sleep. And there are different stages of sleep in between. And so the sleep is more for the soul than it is for the body. Now, the question then is usually asked is, well, why does the body feel tired then? You yawn, you feel droopy, your eyes they just want to close, you want to lie down. Why is your body reacting to something that you say, as you claim, is not for the body? Well, this is where in the classical sciences, it's understood that ether is what powers matter. Matter cannot power itself, right? We say that anything in this closed-loop system cannot generate its own energy. The energy can only be transferred. So, and so far as the body is concerned, there is energy where matter is concerned. So when the body takes in nutrition and food, there is that energy which keeps the organs functioning. But for the body to stay active, to be aware, it needs the ether to power it. Meaning it's the soul that powers the body, right? And we say that the malakut is what gives rise to the mulk. The mulk is not existent because there is a malakut. The malakut is not existent because there is a mulk. Yani, the soul is not existent because there is a body. Rather, it's the other way around. The body is existent because there is a soul. It is the soul that gives rise to the body. When you take the soul away, when the being is removed, along with the animus spirit, the ruh, then the body dies. It cannot survive, right? The point of this is that when you look at now the composition of the soul, the ethereal body, it has got two dimensions because it is in the in-between. Remember? سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. that the soul, just like the horizon, has been placed in an in-between of two realms, the samawat and the ard. So it has a side that's connected to the mulk, which is the body, and that side is the shahwa and the ghadab. And then it has another side, which is a higher side, which is connected to the spirit, and that side is the intellection. However, all three are still components of the soul, and so all three have to be disciplined. Now, if you look at the hadith of Jibril, the components that have been highlighted to acquire this proper epistemic methodology, that which will align you to the truth and bring you to ma'rifah, the right way, the proper way, okay? Such that the heart is now open to this nur. And the only way that the heart can be open to the nur is if it is cleansed of its blemishes or diseases. And the only way that can happen is if the soul has been disciplined. Because the indiscipline of the soul is what eventually corrupts the heart. You see, the blemishes on the heart come from the soul. So if the ghadabiyah is left unchecked, the individual becomes predatory in nature. You know, argumentative, anger, wrath, beating, hostile, right? If the shahwa is not kept under control, the individual becomes bestial in nature. So greedy, covetous, just consuming, just lazy, lethargic, right? If the aqaliyah is not kept controlled, then the person becomes demonic, the shaitani. So, you know, they start plotting and planning and deceiving. Yes, they might be very smart. So, but smartness does not entail intelligence. Smartness just means that your intellect is highly active. Now, it could be highly active in an angelic fashion or in a demonic fashion, right? Because demons also have a high intellect. This is why they're plotting and planning, and they're very smart, and they're very logically sound, and they're very rational, and they can, you see, so they can be very convincing. Doesn't matter. So just being intelligent doesn't mean you're knowledgeable also, or you are a sound individual, or you are a good person. You have all these CEOs and all these like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all that. They're smart people, right? Highly intelligent, but look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing, all their contributions. What actions are they manifesting in the world? These are all demonic actions. Yes, all of them, including, Zuckerberg, Musk, Bill Gates, they're all included in that same category. Because all this technology and AI and all these things that they are bringing into the world, thinking that they're very smart in doing what they're doing, rather they are contributing to the corruption of the world. In other words, they are also contributing to setting the stage for the Dajjal to come. That's a different discussion, right? So highly intelligent, very smart, but that intelligence is not properly guided, then the person becomes demonic. You see? Now, in the hadith of Jibril, all these three questions that were asked, including the fourth one, all these three regard the being in aligning the being to full synchronicity with the divine ordinance. So if you look, the first question of Islam, that regards these two stages of the shahwa and the ghadab. The Islam deals with the shahwa and the ghadab because it disciplines the link between the mulk and the soul that is connected to the mulkiya aspect, the shahwa and the ghadab. That's what it disciplines. So the salah timings, right? For example, Fajr breaks your sleep, and sleep is related to that shahwa. You see? Wudu, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, if you get angry, if you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting, lie down. If you can't, or go for a walk. But if you do wudu, then that depletes your anger completely. So being in a state of wudu also helps combat that ghadabiyya aspect, right? So abstaining from the desires of food, drink, and copulation and sleep and all that. You see, all this disciplines the lower self, the shahwa and the ghadab. That's the Islam. Islam is meant to discipline those elements. So Islam cleanses you of these things, which are the root causes of bringing about disease to your heart, right? Then you have the iman, which now deals with the aql. So the components that have been highlighted in when he asked him about iman, those components are telling you what you should establish belief in. And so we say that the process of arriving at justified belief, right? You can go through the rationality, asking what is it? What is it really? How is it? Whether it's this or that. And then you establish what is known as tasdeeq, which is conviction. وَفُسِّرَ الْإِيمَانُ بِالتَّصْدِيقِ. Iman is this conviction. And so that's the process, that's the mind, that's the work of the aql. Okay? So you could establish belief in anything. Why do you think so many people went astray? Why do you think people have so widespread beliefs in so many things and they're able to rationalize it to themselves? They've got valid arguments. If you just look at the argument alone, they've got valid arguments. Why? That's the aqaliyah. It's not been rightly guided. It's not been disciplined. It's gone its own way. You see? So the aql can go its own way. That's what the iman portion is helping you do. So within that iman portion, when you now look at the sciences that help you understand that, you've got things like aqidah, ilmul kalam, you've got philosophy, proper philosophy. I'm not talking about, just concocted Greek or whatever, like German philosophy or something like that. Proper philosophy, proper Islamic philosophy. So you've got those kinds of sciences that help you go through this mode of rationality and to come to a proper ratification. Then if you look at the ihsan aspect, that now once you have established the Islam, yani disciplined your lower self, and then established the iman, yani guided your aqliyah, your intellections in the proper way, then now you can work on your heart and beautify or polish it and cleanse it. So the ihsan portion now, the husn now regards the heart, this beautification from within, so that the nur can enter into the heart and ignite this lamp which is inside you, the misbah, so that the luminance now comes from within. So a person is beautiful now. This is the beautification is coming from within. It's not just an outer beautification, or they did his beard very properly and he trimmed his nose hairs, his hairstyle is good, or she put on makeup and lipstick. It's not the outer beautification. It's an inward beautification. Regardless of what blemishes they may have on the skin or the face or the body for that matter, they still radiate a beauty that is ethereal. It is not material. Okay? It is a spiritual beauty. And so now the ascension of mankind is now pertain where it comes to the being now is the fourth question, as-sa'a, because the being is now should be concerned with time. Because what did we say? The being at a certain time, هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا. Was there not a period of time from eternity when mankind was nothing worth mentioning? It was nothing. He had no form, no substance, no nothing. In time, then he brought mankind into existence at a certain time. And then he brought mankind into this world, each individual designated at a certain time, meaning for a certain purpose. He didn't just do it randomly. It was not just a random selection who should appear at what time and place. I mean, if you think about this, just think about this. all these notable individuals at the time in which they existed, if they did not exist in that time period, what would history have unfolded like? Think about this. Take Hitler, for example. If he did not exist at that time period, assume he existed at the time of Noah, alayhi salam, and he died in the flood. Would you have had World War II? Would you have had all the other manifestations that took place in history after that? Think about this. Imam al-Ghazali, he existed at a time when his teacher was Imam al-Haramain, al-Juwayni, right? So that in itself, that combination of that teacher to that student is a unique precedence. Then Imam al-Ghazali plays a pivotal role between multitudes of people. The Falasifa, because he wrote a crucial refutation to Greek philosophy coming into Islam and corrupting Aqidah. He wrote, everyone knows the Ihya Ulumuddin, okay? But particularly, he combated and refuted against the Sufiya of his time and the Batiniya of his time. Who are these Batiniya? These were, today they are known as the Ismailiya, okay? The Khoja, you know the Khoja people, right? Aga Khan and all that, right? Those people. Now, if you look at his these people were very conniving because they would infiltrate. If you know about the game called Assassin's Creed, right? They have the first installment where it's the original order in Masyaf. This was true. They had a fort in Masyaf. They operated from there. I don't remember the name, but he was known as the Old Man of the Mountain. He was their leader. This was all Batiniya. They used to send out assassins in, the different governments, and, they'll just kill. If the ruler was not inclined towards their belief system, they would just assassinate him. And you wouldn't even know, the ruler wouldn't even know that his servant or his advisor or his vizier is actually an assassin. They were that dangerous. They caused a lot of havoc. There were multiple attempts on Salahuddin Ayyubi's life because at one point the Batiniya were in alliance with the Knights Templar, and it was in their interest to see Jerusalem go into the into Templar control from the Muslim control. Yeah. You can read all this. You can look up the history of all this. A lot of it's been whitewashed, of course, because, they're still in cahoots. Even today, they're still in the same, they've got very close ties, the Ismailiya on the higher order, not the lower layman people who follow blindly. But they've got very close ties with Freemasonry. And the same case applies for Ahmadiyya. Anyway, different topic of discussion. Imam al-Ghazali wrote, he was very much outspoken against these Batiniya because of this corruption that they installed of looking at religion purely from an esoteric point of view. And this esotericism is what has always led these people into witchcraft and sorcery. So you look at the Jews and their esotericism, it takes them to the Kabbalah. Same case to the Hindus, same case to the Christians, same case to all of them, right? Because what they believed is that there is everything about the being is only internal. Yani, there is no physical manifestation required. So they don't have to physically pray or physically fast or physically recite the Quran or physically do any of the acts of ibadat that are explicitly commanded in both the Quran and the Hadith. This Hadith of innamal a'malu binniyat resolves that entire argument that they have. if it is understood properly. They cannot deny the hadith, but what they did is they interpreted it according to their own whims. Innamal a'malu binniyat, because there are different kinds of ba. You see, you have to understand what kind of ba it is. In that ba, that ba is a ba of contingency, which is why we say that actions are contingent upon the intentions. You'll find some other translations which are wrong translations, that actions are judged based on the intentions. No, this is how they ended up justifying this element here. Oh, you can do a wrong action, but so long as your intention was right. It doesn't work like that, my friend. Actions are not judged based on the intentions. Actions are manifested based on the intentions. What you intend is what's going to manifest. So they misinterpreted this thing to say that actions are judged based on the intention. So long as we do the intention, even though the action is not performed, we are still occupants of paradise ultimately. So this is why they never do any a'mal or ibadat. Seriously, they don't. And they have this concocted mannerism, which is an admixture of what you will find in the Kabbalah and in Freemasonry esotericisms. The Ismailiyah, I'm talking about the Ismailiyah. You'll find this in the, and they'll have practices that are completely off the charts. Right? Now, this is my point. So Imam al-Ghazali, if you look at his works, and if you understand them, and you understand his reasoning when he's talking about all these other people, it's a phenomenal thing, divine ordinance, that Imam al-Ghazali was sent to that time period and not any other time period. And that's just a few of his works. Just mentioning briefly. The same case goes for any individual. Any soul, each and every soul sent at a particular time is divine ordinance. You, having been born and existent in this time, in this age, in this period, has a purpose to be fulfilled. There's a reason why he created you. So this is what we say is the purpose of your existence. To understand why he created you. And then why he has sent you into this world. So you have purpose of being, and then in that purpose of being, you have purpose of life. Why did he send you into? So this is the higher aspect, where now you're truly, going more inwards to understand your true reality. You see? This is what that fourth question pertains. The being. As-sa'a. Think about this. Think about the sa'a. Think about humanity as a whole, and think about yourself as an individual. You've been given a certain time of duration. Just think about that, right? And if you note the two signs, the amarat that he gives you, the Prophet ﷺ in that hadith, they really are distinguishing elements, not just of this modern age, but highlighting two aspects. This adherence, number one, to the naturally ordained order that Allah has put in place for the believer, and refraining from this material pursuit and competition. These are the two things that he highlights. And he highlights them in the sense of saying that towards the end of the of humankind, towards the sa'a, these two things will be most dominant. The natural order that Allah has ordained will be overturned. That includes the social order, the economic order, trade. I mean, think about it. Let's give you an example of trade, okay? And all these people thinking about Bitcoin and investing in Bitcoin. Rethink this, okay? In the Quran, what's ordained as money is gold and silver. And no one can debate that. Gold and silver is tangible, is physical. And it's got a rarity and an intrinsic value. Okay? Now, the push is towards digital currency. What is digital currency? Or cryptocurrency in this case? It's not tangible. It's not physical. It is not rare because it can be generated. Yeah, they're saying the algorithm, only so many can be made, blah, blah, blah. But why are there so many different variances now? Bitcoin is just one of them. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of those currencies coming out now. Okay? So it's not rare. It's flooded. The market is flooded with that. It has no intrinsic value. It doesn't. It doesn't have an intrinsic value. All the cryptocurrencies are still being measured using their value in comparison to the dollar or any other currency in your country. It's just currency against currency. So it has no intrinsic value. Now, instead of giving that which has been ordained by Allah precedence, the system is being overturned by giving this precedence instead of what's being ordained. What's being ordained is real. Okay? What's being given precedence is virtual, is fake, is non-existent in the world of khalq. You see? This is the upheaval. Virtual reality in this case now is given more precedence than actual reality. So now those who want to invest in Bitcoin and all that, use aql. It's not, remember what we said, it's not about just the fiqh. The fiqh is ever changing. It's not fixed. So you can't look at the fiqh as it was at the time of Imam Shafi or Abu Hanifa or Ahmad ibn Hanbal or Malik and say, oh, there's nothing about this in the fiqh, so as long as it is halal. It's not about halal or haram. So don't go to your mufti asking the question, is Bitcoin haram or halal? Because mufti will make up his own, he will just look at the text and say, okay, it does this and does that and that, and he'll give you fatwa. Here now you have to think with insight. You have to think critically. You have to think in a manner that would show that you are rightly guided. Because if you're going to somebody else to give you fatwa, you are not guided. Because you're looking for someone else, guidance from someone else. You see, you're dependent on somebody else's thinking. If you do not philosophize, someone else will philosophize for you. This is what Umar radiallahu anhu said, learn your deen and your meaning, and he said it as your fiqh. Learn that before somebody else does the fiqh for you. Because then you're dependent on fatwa from wherever. You see? You have to use your aql in this case. Because here is the sign. And the sign is saying that things are going to be turned upside down. Here you have to use your head and say, is this what it shows? You see? Is this what it is entailing, this turning of upside down? Because why aren't they using gold and silver? What's wrong with using gold and silver? Think about this. Humans have used gold and silver for centuries, thousands of years. They're going to talk about barter trade and nobody knew and this and that. No, humans, go and look Egyptian history. They found gold coins dating back almost 7,000-8,000 years. They were using minted gold coins. Don't listen to these people. This is what I keep saying. These people will come up with their own narratives and their own history and publish them because they control the publishing industry. I know, I'm a publisher. I started my own publishing company because of that nonsense. And I was being offered good money to publish my book, which I declined. I said, no way, I'm not going to let you dictate what I want to publish as my own, knowledge. But they control the textbooks. All the publishing companies in the world that publish textbooks in the world, all the companies everywhere, in every country, they all fall under the same global conglomerate called Pearson. Look it up. Go and study, go and do some research on a company called Pearson. All the textbooks in all the universities and all the schools around the world are published by one company called Pearson. And then look who are on the board of directors of that company. You'll find all these, you'll find Rothschild, you'll find Rockefeller, you'll find a whole bunch of other people up there. You'll find Gates up there. You have to understand. When people say, oh, conspiracy this, yes, there is a conspiracy. A global conspiracy, there is one. It's just identifying and understanding what the conspiracy is, instead of shooting in the dark about reptilian alien figures, right? There is a conspiracy. It's all about ratifying it the proper way, rationalizing it the proper way. Anyway, so my point is that I get sidetracked sometimes like that. My point is, he highlighted these two elements for a specific reason. That reason is what you need to now understand. Are you, as a being, in your time and space that you exist in, are you doing what you were supposed to do? Are you following what you were supposed to follow? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that mankind is neglecting his purpose. He says in Surah Al-A'raf, وَلَقَدْ ضَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ آذَانٌ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ بِهَا أُولَئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ أُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. We have made Jahannam for many amongst the jinn and mankind. They have hearts, but they don't want to understand. They have eyes, but they don't want to see. They have ears, but they don't want to listen. They are just like cattle. No, rather they are worse than cattle. They are completely heedless. They are heedless in comparison to cattle, because livestock is being livestock. It was created to be an an'am. A cow was created to be a cow. A cow was not created to be an executive officer, a financial officer, the president of a country. That's not what a cow was created to do. A goat is doing what a goat was created to do. It's being what it was meant to be. When Allah said be and it became, it is being what it was meant to be. It's not going against that ordinance. But mankind is not being what it was created to be. He was created to be. Instead of being what he wants you to be, a Khalifa. Who is this Khalifa? Someone who rectifies himself so he can be responsible. Because there will be a day of accountability. But instead of doing that, he's doing a whole bunch of other things. Ergo, he's in a state of ghafla, heedlessness. He's in total blanket, veil. Can't see. With what? Not outward seeing. They all have 20/20 vision better than me. They don't need glasses. It's seeing with their heart. They're not seeing with their heart. And if you look at the manifestation of that reality, their actions henceforth are not just random. Every action has got an intention behind it. I'll give you an example. And whether you want to believe in it or not, that's up to you. Gog and Magog and their manifestations in reality. What are they doing? What are they doing? They have been identified primarily with an ideology of fasad. Okay? Mufsiduna fil ard. That's what they said when Dhul Qarnayn went on the third journey. Inna ya'juja wa ma'juja mufsiduna fil ard. They're causing, or they are corruptors in the land. Now, this corruption is not just a physical corruption. The action will have a physical manifestation, undoubtedly. But the corruption primarily has to take place in the heart. Why? Because actions are contingent on intentions. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are contingent on intentions. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. And everyone will get, or rather will manifest in this case, what they intended. And in this example now he says, فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Now, this is what you call in Arabic a jumla shartiya. Okay? In logic, it would be called a contingent sentence or a conditional sentence. It's more of a contingent sentence. Now, the thing that is being conditioned upon, one of the rules is that the thing that is conditioned upon cannot be the same as what the condition is. You understand? And yet in this sentence, the hijratuhu ila Allahi wa rasulihi, that's the condition. Then what is being conditioned? Fa hijratuhu ila Allahi wa rasulihi. The two cannot be the same thing. So what this means here is that the first of it is what pertains to the intention. This is highly intelligible speech. It's the Prophet ﷺ's speech. It's highly intelligent speech. See, he's speaking in this logic without having had to study logic, like most of us, right? But so he's saying, whoever did hijrah, because the circumstance of narration can also be taken into account here. And without mentioning who it was, one of the Sahaba, he loved a particular woman. And so she told him, this was at the time of the migration, the hijrah to Medina. So she told him, if you migrate to Medina, I'll marry you. So he migrated to Medina. And then when the Prophet heard this is when he said this. So this is why he said, whoever did hijrah to Allah and His Messenger, then he did hijrah to Allah and His Messenger. In other words, if this was his intention, then this is what he manifested from that intention. وَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِدُنْيَا يُصِيبُهَا أَوْ امْرَأَةٍ يَنْكِحُهَا فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Whosoever then did hijrah for lidunya, and this is in the nakira form, meaning it is not definitive to any particular thing. It's anything that's related to dunya, anything, whatever dunya we think you could think of. Okay? So if you made hijrah to the United States for economic gain, then that's what your hijrah was for. You can't justify that as fi sabilillah. You can't. There's no way. If your intention was to go to the United States, in this case, for instance, to do da'wah, then that's what your hijrah was for. Because that's what your intention, your intention was, I mean, that's what your action was contingent on, the intention. So he's saying, whosoever did hijrah for some dunyawi purpose, or to find a woman to get married, yani build a relationship and whatnot, get married, settle down, have children and whatnot. So it's al-malu wal-banun. This is the nature of the world. Ultimately, it all boils down to those two. It's either wealth and property and or progeny. Right? That's all that mankind is really concerned about when it comes to hayatul dunya. So if that's what you did hijrah for, فَهِجْرَتُهُ إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. And this is rhetorical speech. Yani, it's not even worth mentioning again. See, in the first instance, he mentioned it again. إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. But in the second instance, إِلَى مَا هَاجَرَ إِلَيْهِ. Whatever he migrated for. It's not even worthy of mention in this case. You see? So, whatever you intend is what you will then manifest. This is why you have to be careful about what's going on in your heart. Because if your heart is diseased, right, then what you intend will be corrupted. And that corruption will manifest into reality. Now, going back to that thing about Gog and Magog, their manifestation in reality is fasad. But it's not just random fasad. They are intelligent people, right? Which means there is a thought process taking place. How is the thought process being manifested? If you look at the word fasad or fasada in its root word, and this is now going into a bit of metaphysics of the language. The fa with a numerical value of 8 corresponds with the ha with a the fa has 80. The numerical value of 80 corresponds with the ha of a value of 8. Meaning there is a multitude of 10 in the ha genus of words connected to the fa genus of words. Okay, so hasada and fasada are related. They are connected words. Hasada is the internal manifestation. Hasad. Okay, hasada is what's in the heart. Hasad. When you do hasad on somebody, the hasad itself is not the manifestation. The hasad is what brings it out. And that's a corruption in the heart. So whether it's envy, hatred, anger, whatever it might be, arrogance, haughtiness, pride, there are a whole bunch of things, miserliness, right? Whatever it might be will manifest into that. And that is then going to come in the outward. So anytime a hasad is intended, then the resultant of that hasad is always going to be fasad. Always is going to be corruption, fasad. So you can see here that Gog and Magog in their manifestation of what's corrupting the world is not random. There is an intention behind it, which means there is an ideology behind it. Where is that ideology coming from? It's from demonic sources. Their aqaliyah is not controlled. Their ghadabiyah is not controlled. Their shahwaniyah is not controlled. And by the way, it's not that you are only in any specific category. You could be in a combination of this. A complex spaghetti of a mixture of all of this. Your aqaliyah could be out of control. Your shahwa could be woo. And your ghadab could be at the same time. And it's all a mixture of this. Whichever will manifests. It could be even a manifestation of all three together. Hence, a person becomes demonic. Right? This kathirun is because, and Gog and Magog, by the way, 999 out of every 1,000 is Gog and Magog destined for hellfire. So don't assume that Gog and Magog is just one specific group of individuals who are distinct from Muslim. It's not Muslim that is being distinct here. It is mu'min. Right? So Allah says in Suratul Ma'idah, I believe, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, la tattakhidhu al-yahud wa-nasara awliya. Don't take Jews and Christians as your allies. Certain Jews and Christians, not all of them. Ba'duhum awliya'u ba'd. Some of them who are allies of each other of them. فَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. Whosoever joins them is one of them. Allah does not guide people who are unjust. Dhulm. Unjust to who? Not just to others, to themselves. Why? Because they do not want to align themselves to proper divine ordinance. Their fitrah is not aligned to divine ordinance. That is an injustice upon themselves. That is now, so Adam and Hawa, what was their injustice? Their fitrah was supposed to follow divine ordinance. By going against the divine ordinance, and hence now concerning themselves with what does not concern them, they caused an injustice upon themselves. And this is why their dua says, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. We wronged ourselves. Okay? This injustice that people are doing unto themselves, you might even be Muslim. But if your thought process is not aligned to divine ordinance, your intellection is not aligned to divine ordinance, everything that you do, you might be thinking just insofar as the fiqh is concerned, is it haram or halal? Okay, so long as I'm not doing anything haram, it should be okay. I'll be fine. You might just be thinking in that regard only, without having this iman aspect to guide you, and without having this husn to say, is it really the right thing to do? Not just about haram and halal. Is it really the right thing to do? Then you will be doing an injustice unto yourself. And because you're not following divine ordinance, you will hence be following the philosophies of somebody else. Whether it is Iblis or the Dajjal or Gog and Magog or Bill Gates or Elon Musk or Donald Trump, whoever it might be. You're following them. فَمَنْ يَتَوَلَّهُ مِنْكُمْ فَإِنَّهُ مِنْهُمْ. You're one of them. This is why كَثِيرٌ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ is this 999 collection of Gog and Magog includes those Muslims who will join them. And there will be Muslims who will join them. This is not a class on eschatology to explain what exactly and how exactly that works. Because I know people have this thing in mind and they actually start doing the calculation. The people actually, and these are scholars, I would say so-called scholars, this is stupidity on their part, to even attempt to do calculations of this sort. They look at the world population and say, oh, okay, so there are 2 billion Muslims in the world. So ratio of 1 to 999, that means 2 billion times 999. This is how they think. Oh, okay, so that means that Gog and Magog are going to be, wow, almost 1 trillion people. This is how they think. Stupid people. Very stupid people, regardless of your education. That's not what it means. It's not a ratio of 1 Muslim to every 999 of Gog and Magog. It is mu'min. So you can be a Muslim, but not necessarily a mu'min. Who is a mu'min? He says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The believers are successful. Meaning the disbelievers are unsuccessful. He didn't say قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُسْلِمُونَ. The Muslims are successful. No. He said the believers are successful. Who are the believers? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. They are those who have in their salah, they have khushu'. Meaning they are active participants of their salah. They're not just going through the motions. You see, their heart is present in their salah. Their mind is focused in their salah. Their body and bodily functions are controlled by the being in the salah. That is khushu'. Now, khushu' means humility, submissiveness. Khasha'a means to submit in humility. You see? So this is, you're submitting your will to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you're performing salah. You're not just doing it because it is an ordinance, or you have to, it's time. If you don't, you might end up in hellfire. You're not just doing it for that. So in this hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, if you look at the commentary that Imam Nawawi gives, very interesting. He highlights that the niyyah itself, its seed is sincerity. It's not just a niyyah, oh, I intend on doing Hajj, and then you sit there. No, there's a sincerity that really determines the niyyah itself. And he says that there are 3 kinds of people when it comes to sincerity. There are those, so there are 2 lower aspects, and then there is 1 higher aspect. Okay, 3 kinds of groups of people. The 2 lower aspects are basic humans. Basic humans. They haven't really transcended intelligence. Basic humans are motivated by 2 things: the carrot and the stick. Reward or punishment. That's it. That's what human beings are motivated on a basic level, on a fundamental level. So the lowest level is motivated by the stick. Punishment. So his sincerity, and he is sincere. It's not that he's not sincere. So they're all sincere, but they are groups, they are categories. He's doing it, or his intention is to perform the action to avoid the punishment. And he's given his reward insofar as the intention is being sincere. The second category, who's a bit higher, is doing it. This one is, so the first category, he's the He's the abid. Sorry, he's the abd. He's the slave. He's the bottomist. The second one is the tujar. He's doing it because he wants the reward. So for him, it's a trade. If I do this, I'll get this much thawab. If I do this, I'll get this much. So you find these people who do the calculations, all right? Laylatul Qadr. Khayrun min alfi shahr. So they look at Khayrun min alfi shahr. It's better than 1,000 nights. 1,000 months. So they start doing the calculation. 1,000 divided by 12 is equal to some 83 point something. So if I do Laylatul Qadr one night, I will be getting reward for 83 years. And if I do it next year, I'll get another 83 years. So this is what they do. They do it for the calculation. If I do this, I'll get this. If I do this, I'll get this. Right? Still a sincere intention. But still on the lower level. The higher level are the awliya. They do it not because they are afraid of the punishment, neither because they are interested in the reward. They know they'll get the reward, whatever reward has been promised for them. Right? They are doing it solely to please Allah. That's it. That's their intention. That's their sincerity. To do it because God wants them to do it. Right? That's the awliya now. That's the rank we want to be in. Not on the carrot and stick level where you're thinking about punishment and reward only. Okay? You want to be on the higher level where you do things. This is the level of ihsan. And that level is parted into muraqabah and mushahada. Muraqabah is the lower. Mushahada is the higher. Muraqabah, God is watching you. So do it on the premise that He's watching. Stuff. Mushahada, you are in a state of witnessing divine presence. So do it in that state. You see? That's the level we want to be in husn. Right? But then he says in the following ayah now, listen to this. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. The believer is one who turns away from lahu. What is lahu? Lugha comes from the root word lahu. Lugha. So when you say lughatul Arabiya, meaning language, language is just words. That's what lahu means. Just words. It's just nonsense. So it's words that don't make sense. It's nonsense. It's empty words. So in Arabic, lugha and kalam are made distinct. In the English language, I don't think there's a distinction being made. Lugha in Arabic is learning the words and how they work in the language. So this is a noun, this is a verb. For this verb to work with this noun, you have to do it in this way, right? And then you have to give a preposition in between, or you have to, that is lugha. You're learning the words and how they work in the language. Kalam is speech. Kalam pertains how you articulate the language now. How do you bring out meaning? And so in kalam, we say that for speech to be complete, it has to, first of all, it has to convey the entire meaning that is conveyed. And the words used or the sentences that are formed have to give the full meaning so that the person understands it completely and does not need to then ask anything for more information. Understand? It doesn't need to ask for more information on the matter. And you don't have to say anything more after you have made the statement. So if I say, Daraba Zaydun Amran, that's a complete statement. You don't need to know any more information and I don't need to say anything more as far as that statement is concerned. Zayd hit Amr. It makes complete sense. You're not going to ask me who, what, how, where. If I said only Daraba Zaydun, then now there's a question mark. Because you're then going to ask, Man Daraba, who did Zayd hit? Right? I haven't given you the maf'ulun, the person on whom the action was being performed. And now I have to add, so that is an incomplete statement. I have to add more, words to make it complete. Understand? And so because I have mentioned the fi'l, and kullu fi'lin yahtaju ila fa'il. Every action must denote the doer of the action. Wa kullu fa'ilin yahtaju ila maf'ulun. And every doer of the action also must indicate upon what or whom the action is being performed on. So if I just say daraba Zaydun, it's incomplete. I have to say who the maf'ulun bihi is. Daraba Zaydun Amr. You see, that is speech. It's complete. And there is meaning and there is sense. So kalam is speaking with meaning and purpose. Lugha or lahu is nonsense. So gossip falls in that category. Backbiting falls in that category. Just yapping away about things that don't make any, they've got no purpose. You know, you're at a family gathering and you're just talking about politics. There's no purpose in discussing that. That is lahu. That is lahu, okay? Or you're sitting and talking about the weather, or talking about a certain restaurant where you had a certain meal or something. That's empty speech. It's got no purpose to be served. There might be some meaning in the words as far as the words are concerned, but it's just words. There is no purpose to the speech. There's no reason for you to say what you're saying. It's better for you to be quiet. Now, here's an interesting thing. You can try this if you have your phone. If you translate lahu, go to Google translate lahu. You'll see what the translation it gives you. It'll say Twitter. Twitter. Lahu. And that's what Twitter is. It's empty talk. That's what social media is. It's just empty talk. It's just a voicing of opinions. It's just a delivery of empty news. Why do you need to know all that? It's not purposeful knowledge. It's just information being tossed about. It's got no relevance insofar as your being is concerned. And this is another hadith, you'll find this, I mentioned it yesterday, I believe, I don't remember, from Imam Nawawi's collection, the 12th hadith. من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعنيه. From the husn, from the ihsan of one's Islam, his submission, is to leave that which does not concern you. Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said that this hadith is the complete religion. Abu Dawud said it's a half, I believe, or a quarter. But the complete religion. Simply leaving that which does not concern you, ergo doing that which concerns you or adhering to that which concerns you. Simply doing that is a fulfillment of your religion. And this is what Allah is saying here. Hum anil laghwi mu'ridun tarkuhu ma la ya'nihi. Because that empty speech and empty talk does not concern you. Has got no relevance insofar as your being is concerned. I'll give you an example. This Ukraine-Russia thing going on, all right? Why I don't understand, why is everybody think that they are suddenly an expert on the matter? Everyone has an opinion and wants to take a side. And then when the side shifts, they shift with the side. Everyone is concerned about why Europe is supporting Ukraine with such openness and love and affection, and did not support Palestine in the same way when Israel was invading Palestine. Why are you concerned with that? What purpose, insofar as your being is concerned, does that fulfill? Does it increase the amount of bread on your table? Does it keep your family happier? Huh? Did you get a check mark? Did you get a notification that you'll be getting a certificate when you make that post on Facebook? Oh, hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of the West. It has to be exposed. It doesn't concern you. You're not in that category. If you're an ulama, if you're among the ulama, and you are studying the subject, you are studying international affairs, for instance, then that concerns you. If you are a world leader, then that concerns you. If you are a politician in some regard, then that concerns you. But if you're anyone other than what that matter relates to, why are you concerning yourself with that? And then voicing your opinions like you're an expert of sorts. The whole Circus 19 that took place, everybody had an opinion. Oh, they're trying to kill us, they're trying to poison us, they're trying to inject us with robots, they want to control our minds, this is what their agenda is. How do you know? How do you know that that's what they're trying to do? I'm not denying there's a conspiracy. I'm not denying there's an agenda behind it. How do you know that's what the agenda is? You're trying to analyze a fitna while the fitna is going on. That is foolishness. That is what one of my teachers likes to call schoolboy methodology. You're being a schoolboy. You're trying to analyze a fitna in relation to prophecy. To say, look, see, the Prophet said, see, this is what it is, the plague of the end of times. How do you know? How do you know that you know? And how do you know that what you know is true? Such that you establishing a conviction in that is justified as truth. If you cannot answer those questions, you are in a state of ghafla. You are in a state of delusion because you are concerning yourself with things that do not concern you. Ergo, you are not being what you were created to be. Because if you are being what you were created to be, you would only concern yourself with what concerns you. You sitting and discussing politics and this and that and this ruler is doing that and that one is like this and when did you become an expert on governance and state affairs? You're not in that. It's got nothing to do with you. You sitting there and discussing all that. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit anyone else around you. You're wasting your own time and everybody else's time. And this deters you from being what you are supposed to be. Because you are the being. And time is your most precious commodity. And so, that's one ayah. Lahu. You have to be careful. Which company are you keeping? Which language are you speaking? Which language are you thinking in? What is it that you are preoccupied with? People preoccupying themselves with games and sports. All they can talk about is basketball. They know all the names of all the team members and their statistics and their histories, but they don't know a single scholar in our tradition or what that scholar has written. They know, at the most, they will know the 4 Khulafa'ur Rashidin. That's all. The 4 Khulafa. They don't know the names of any of the other Sahabas and what they did and who they were. And they'll have a vague recollection. Somebody might mention it and they'll say, oh, wasn't that the one who did like this and like that? That's how they relate with our tradition. These are our children, teenagers. They know all the names of all the... They'll spend 2 hours watching a football match. Like it's the thing to do, you know. I know, I've been there. I was a teenager. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not speaking because I'm a holy, saintly person. I'm telling you because I regret wasting that time. I wish I would have used that time for something more beneficial. Now I'm trying to play catch up with life. That's my point. Concern yourself with what concerns you. Those games and sports do not concern you. It's a waste of time. That's what it is. It's pastime. It's got no material benefit to you. It's got no ethereal benefit to you. It's got no spiritual benefit to you. It is just a plaything. This is one of the reasons why, if you look in our tradition, the ulama prohibited playing chess because it's a waste of time. The ulama also prohibited making games because it's the equivalent of you manufacturing booze in your backyard, in your garage. making alcohol. That's the equivalent of it. Because your games are just going to end up putting other people in a state of ghafla. Ghafla is what? Ghafla is being occupied or being preoccupied with other than what concerns you. That is being in a state of ghafla. Ulaika humul ghafilun. They are completely heedless. Why? Because they are preoccupied with that which does not concern them. And because they are not preoccupied with what concerns them, they end up either corrupting, causing corruption, or causing bloodshed, which is what the angels talked about. مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَفْسِكُ الدِّمَاءَ. You see? Now, you might think, and here's the thing, don't get arrogant with this portion, because a lot of people will do that. Oh, I'm not doing that, because you're comparing yourself to the worst criminal. No, compare yourself to the best saint. Compare yourself to the awliya. Compare yourself to the sahaba. That's how you measure your position. If you compare yourself to the worst criminal, you might delude yourself into thinking that you're fine. See, at least I didn't commit murder. I'm not causing bloodshed. But you could be causing harm to somebody else. You could be causing harm in your argumentation, in your defiance, in your haughtiness, in your arrogance. And you don't even realize that. Oh, I didn't, blow up or whatever. I didn't pump all that chemical into the river. It wasn't my factory. So I'm not actually committing fasad. Really? You could be committing fasad to your body by just consuming that which you should not be consuming. And you've justified that by looking at the fatwa to say, oh, the ingredients that I'm looking at are not haram ingredients. You're drinking a liter of Coke every day, okay? You're not even doing it in moderation to say, okay, a once in a while thing, maybe a glass or something. You're drinking a full liter of Coke every day. And well, if you look at the ingredients, as far as fiqh is concerned, none of the ingredients are haram. So does it make it halal for you to just drink that every day? If you justify it like that, then you get diabetes. Whose fault is it? Who corrupted the body? It was you. You caused the fasad. So you could be doing that and you don't even know. Don't compare yourself to the criminals. Don't compare yourself to those who are in prison for the worst of the actions. Compare yourself to those who are the best and aim for that. Make them your role models. I want to be like such and such because of his righteousness. I want make the Prophet ﷺ your role model. Make the Sahaba your role model. Your role models. You'll find yourself akin to one of the four Khulafa al-Rashidin. For sure. Aim to be a Siddiq like Abu Bakr. Or aim to be brave and just like Umar ibn al-Khattab. Or aim to be generous like Uthman al-Ghani. Or aim to be knowledgeable like Ali. Aim for that. Compare yourself to that and say, am I actually there yet? No, you're not. Work on it. Work on it. This is why he says in the fourth ayah, Surah Al-Mu'minun, after the lahu, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَعِلُونَ. They are in this constant observance of purification. The zakat here doesn't mean they're paying zakat always. No, it means zakah yuzakki. Zakah yuzakki is the purification. Right? He says, وَالنَّفْسِ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. He has proportioned the soul. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Inspired the soul with both good and evil. Given you both the inclinations. You can submit to evil or you can rise above that and become good. قَدْ أَفْلَهَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. See? The one who succeeds is the one who purifies himself. قَدْ أَفْلَهَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. Not one who pays zakat. One who purifies himself. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. The loser, the one who fails, is the one who causes a rift or a blockage. That's what dassa means. A dassa is a wedge, like a barrier. So your fitra is inclined towards good. If you capitulate to evil, you're causing a wedge between your fitra and its inclination. You're preventing yourself from arriving at the truth. This is the question that he asked Iblis. Ma mana'aka? What prevented you? What was the thing that drove a wedge between you and myself? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your fitra, your nature, he says, and we're going to look at this tomorrow now, inshallah. He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinn and mankind except but to serve me. Meaning, your inclination by nature, by your nature, is to serve him. So what's preventing you? You're preventing yourself because of these blemishes that you have put on your heart. Because of these, your submission to yourself is causing you or is preventing you from arriving at the truth. That's what the power of the intention, so long as it is sincere, can guide you along the right path to manifest the right actions. If your intention is inclined towards divine ordinance, then your manifestation in reality will be in accordance to divine ordinance. You will be in full synchronicity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what it means to be in the divine presence. It is to be synchronous with His ordinance. That's what it means. It doesn't mean a physical, I'm now in God's presence. That's not what it means. Like you're sitting in meditation and now I'm in God's presence. No. It is to be synchronous with His divine ordinance. That's the best way I can explain it. It is to be harmonious. So Imam al-Ghazali in the Kimya al-Sa'ada, if you read it, he talks about the heart being aligned to the Lawh al-Mahfud. It is the mirror of what's on the Lawh al-Mahfud, and the Lawh al-Mahfud is a mirror to what's on the heart. And when you align the two mirrors together, like when you put two parallel mirrors together, what's in one mirror will be reflected in the other mirror. Okay? This, he says, if you align yourself, because what is in the Lawh al-Mahfud? Everything that Allah has ordained is in the Lawh al-Mahfud. You see? Now, likewise, what is in your heart? Your heart is supposed to do, as far as its natural disposition, is supposed to do what He ordains for it to do. When you align yourself to His ordinance, then whatever He has ordained is reflected in you, because you're doing what He has ordained in the Lawh al-Mahfud. And likewise, what you are doing is reflected in the Lawh al-Mahfud, because your actions is what He has documented, that this is what you will do. You are in synchronicity with the divine ordinance. That's what it means to be in His presence, in a state of mushahada, witnessing what? Witnessing His decree. وَتُؤْمِنَ بِالْقَدْرِهِ شَرِّهِ وَخَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ. To believe in His power, His ordinance, His decree, whether it is good or it is bad. You are synchronous with that. Your heart is not perturbed when things happen, when there are occurrences taking place, when there is some turbulence, when there is fitna here or something else over there. Your heart is not in a state of disturbance. Your heart recognizes that this is divine ordinance. It accepts it and it moves along with it. That is true submission to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wills it to happen. So Muslims right now, and we pray for their well-being. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide them. Not just the Muslims, all those innocent people who are caught. Because when there is war is just, it's carnage. It doesn't discriminate between innocent and guilty. Whoever gets caught in the crossfire is caught in the crossfire, and there's nothing you can do about it. You see? So all these innocent people who are in Russia, Ukraine, at the border right there, whoever is caught in that fire, in that situation, Muslim, Christian, Jew, or whoever else, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them shifa and bring them out of that tribulation and ease their burdens for them. Because that's what war is. War is a trial and a tribulation. It's a fitna. It's a fitna. And you should never desire war. To desire war is a sickness of the heart. You know, the Arabs say, one of the Arab poets said that war is like when it comes to you, it's like a bedecked woman, you know, and very enticing, very alluring. And then its ugliness is revealed. And now you can't get out of that relationship. That's what it is. It's a fitna. It's an allurement. And this is what I meant is you trying to analyze a fitna while the fitna is taking place is a waste of time. You will never understand what's happening. Because while the fitna is taking place, it's full of these subjective elements and semantics that keep changing. That the narratives keep changing. And that fitna is not just the fitna of the fight itself. There's all this other fitna that is coming out and fueling the fire. The media and the propaganda that is taking place from the West particularly. And likewise, even on the East, they have their own agenda. So they have their own propaganda taking place. So all the narratives keep changing. And so you cannot try to analyze what's going on while it is taking place. You'll be wasting your time. Preoccupy yourself with something else. Prioritize what you need to do. Then you can go back once the dust has settled, at least somewhat, and then make your analysis. And then say, oh, okay, this is what it is. I understand better now what is going on. But all these people sitting hooked on the TV, on the television, watching the news day in, day out until 3, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, you know, and then they're so tired that they go off to sleep and they miss Fajr. What are you preoccupied with? This is the point. You're sitting up until late at night, at 3, 4 in the morning, okay, watching the news because you think suddenly, oh, now I have to pay attention because this is something that's going on. It's going to affect, you know, and then you miss your Fajr. Should you have been concerned about? What should you have been concerned about? That's the thing. Min husn al-Islam al-mar'i tarkuhu ma la ya'nihi. From the beauty, the husn of one's Islam. If you want to attain this ihsan, the one thing that you need to ensure as a principle, as a qaida, is to leave that which does not concern you. Leave it. You hear a conversation taking place about this, that, and the other, leave it. It's a waste of time. I do that. People, those who know me, I do that. They'll start talking about things. I'll just be quiet. I'll go into my own thoughts. Honestly, that's what I'll do. And then they'll wonder, they'll think they've offended me or something. No, you've not offended me. But it doesn't concern me. Whatever it is you're talking about, it's just lahu, it's nonsense, it's gossip. You see, I'm not going to participate. Now, if there's an intelligent conversation taking place, it's something that is provoking thought, something of substance, yeah, we'll spend hours and talk about that. But if you're going to start talking about burgers and this and that, and oh, you know, we had this over there, and you know, he said like this and she said that, and I'm not going to be concerned about that. Follow the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ. Leave that which does not concern you. You want to be a true mu'min. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. There are those who turn away from lahu, from empty talk, from waste of time. Let's end here, inshallah. Subhanaka wa bihamdika. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, tomorrow is going to be our last session, the last 10th session, inshallah. And tomorrow we'll try and finish early because we also want to try and see if we can sight the moon for the end of Ramadan, the day after, inshallah. Now, tomorrow being the last session, I also would like everyone to start early because this is now the closing of this entire series that I planned out. So I want to take a lot more time giving you a proper conclusion on the matter. I don't want to leave you with pieces. Okay, so inshallah, if we can start early, we'll be able to finish a bit early as well. And yeah, we'll see everyone tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallahu khairan. Barakallahu fikum. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah.